How's it going, everybody? This is Phil. Gary Kurtz, he passed away yesterday. He died at the age of 78. He was battling cancer. As far as Star Wars is concerned, there's a lot of names that are thrown around that are legendary that we attach to this franchise. Of course, we have George Lucas, director Irvin Kershner of Empire Strikes Back, and writer Lawrence Kasdan. We all know John Williams, who's created the legendary soundtrack and score. Ralph McQuarrie, who did the concept art that allowed George Lucas to get the loan to make Star Wars and sell it to the studios, even Ben Burtt, who basically created the sounds of this beloved cinematic universe. Gary Kurtz, he's a producer, and he's an original producer of Star Wars: A New Hope. He met George Lucas early on. He worked with him on American Graffiti, and their next project together was Star Wars. And these types of people, these producers that come along, and they kind of pick up the slack and complete the artistic arm of a production. So, something like with Walt Disney and his brother Roy Disney, they worked together very well, So Walt, he handled, of course, the creative process, and his brother, he handled all the finances, and together they were a great team. Creatives need somebody who can express pragmatically the needs of a production or some type of artistic endeavor, and relay these ideas to people who can't exactly wrap their head around what the artist is trying to create. Gary Kurtz is a very important figure in Star Wars. This article here that I'm going to go into, it's from Newsweek. It's written by Andrew Whalen. And I thought it was kind of neat because it just shows a couple of ways that he kind of helped this movie move forward and get off the ground, and kind of, helped add some really classic elements to the original film and a beloved franchise. Without further ado, let's just kind of move on through this, and I'll also wrap up. There was another excerpt from another article that I thought was actually pretty interesting. So let's kind of cruise through this. And remember Gary Kurtz today. Gary Kurtz, producer of the original Star Wars and its sequel, The Empire Strikes Back, died on Sunday at age 78. Kurtz was with Star Wars from the beginning, often negotiating with 20th Century Fox on behalf of director George Lucas. One of only 6 people to watch the very first scratch mix cut of Star Wars, Kurtz shepherded the movie from pre-production through release. J.W. Rinsler's comprehensive The Making of Star Wars reveals again and again how Kurtz acted as the glue that held the production together. So very fascinating. I mean, that original cut, that I guess, I don't know if that was the cut that George saw, and he was just like, oh my God, this is the worst thing I've ever seen. This is a guy that really was in, the whole way through and producing this movie and bringing it to the theaters, and played a really key role in that. So, here we go. Getting Star Wars off the page. And you see Mark Hamill, he tweeted out, I've lost a lifelong friend. The world has lost a kind, wise, multi-talented artist and filmmaker whose contributions to cinema cannot be overstated. It was an honor to have worked with him, and I know I am a better man just for having known him. Rest in peace, Gary Kurtz. Lucas and Kurtz' original deal with Fox provided $15,000 for development and $50,000 for the script, the same amount Kurtz was paid to produce the movie. But by 1975, the development deal hadn't progressed, largely because Fox didn't believe $3 million would cover Lucas's expansive second draft of the script. Kurtz set out to create a convincing budget, while Lucas recruited concept artist Ralph McQuarrie, now famous for building the Star Wars aesthetic. Each step we dragged Fox along, Kurtz said. Soon, he traveled to London with Macquarie's paintings to assemble a production team in England. Okay. And of course, he ended up at Pinewood Studios, Pinewood Studios and Industrial Light Magic. While Lucas worked on revising the script, Kurtz visited England in search of studios large enough for the expansive sets. With set designer John Barry, he decided on Elstree Studios and Pinewood Studios. The latter is now so associated with Star Wars that Disney returned there for all 4 of its Star Wars movies, beginning with The Force Awakens. And from Elstree Studios, Star Wars producer Gary Kurtz has sadly passed away. Gary Kurtz was an American film producer whose list of credits include Star Wars A New Hope, The Empire Strikes Back, The Dark Crystal, and Return to Oz. Kurtz was also instrumental in the formation of Lucas' independent visual effects company, introducing Lucas to John Dykstra, a protege of effects pioneer Douglas Trumbull, 2001, and Silent Running. Despite a troubled working relationship and Dykstra's exit from Industrial Light Magic, his team still won an Academy Award for Star Wars' landmark special effects. Fake progress reports. ILM Visual Effects. Our thoughts are with friends and family of famed Star Wars producer Gary Kurtz, who was a key collaborator of George Lucas and a supremely talented storyteller. So, this section is Fake Progress Reports. ILM struggled to perfect the complex coordination of camera movements, explosions, and other effects needed to create shots like the trench run in Star Wars. Working the kinks out of the blue screen process and optically printed effects shots put the production severely behind schedule. Fox's production department was continuously harassing us, Kurtz said. They didn't see any paperwork to tell them what we were doing. He came up with a solution. We were having a terrible time, Kurtz said. The only way we could placate Fox was to invent paperwork. They created a number of fake metrics, typically 5 completed shots per day, with all sorts of codes and data, proving production was continuing apace. So, and that's the thing with being a creative. People who do the numbers, they always want to quantify somehow how the work is getting done. So it's kind of interesting that they actually went and kind of figured out a way to lie about what they were actually getting accomplished just to buy themselves some time. And last but not least, a bigger, better cantina. And there we have Figure and Dan in the modal nodes. And even as Star Wars neared completion, Lucas still had a lot of material he wished they had been able to shoot. One of his biggest requests was to flesh out the scene in the Mos Eisley Cantina with more aliens, but Fox balked at an estimated $100,000 price tag for the reshoots. Kurtz stepped in and convinced the studio they could bring it in for half that amount. Fox coughed up only $20,000, but thanks to legendary makeup effects creator Rick Baker, at the time known only for a handful of low-budget horror movies, It's Alive and Squirm, Star Wars got a lot of new aliens, including the Drooling Arm, Lamproid, Hammerhead Moma Nadon, and the house band Figure and Dan and the Modal Nodes. So, here you go. Gary Kurtz being able to go in and convince Fox, ended up giving us some of these classic creatures like Hammerhead and Figure and Dan and the Modal Nodes. As the producer, Kurtz fought for Star Wars from its earliest drafts, starring General Anakin Starkiller and a giant green Han Solo. Star Wars wasn't the singular vision of George Lucas, but an incredible coming together of talents. Kurtz's talent was uniting them. Gary was a beloved husband, father, grandfather, friend, colleague, and mentor whose work and talent spanned filmmaking, photography, music, and cinema history. A statement released by his family read, "Gary was a magnificent man who will be hugely missed. His whole family thanks you for your love and thoughts." So, again, really interesting the role that this guy played in Star Wars and kind of just bringing everything together, getting things like this on the screen. I mean, could you imagine a cantina scene without Figure and Dan and the Modal Nodes? Certainly Hammerhead is something that nobody would really miss, but just imagine it without these guys, jamming away with that cantina song that we all know so well, know and love so much. that's this article on Newsweek, and I just want to shoot over to one more article over on Mashable, because there is an interesting story as it relates to Gary Kurtz and the mythology of Star Wars. So here we are on Mashable.com, and this article is written by Chris Taylor. Chris Taylor wrote a book entitled How Star Wars Conquered the Universe, where he actually interviewed Gary Kurtz. So starting this off, it says, Peter Mayhew texted, rest in peace, Gary Kurtz, a great filmmaker and man, has just passed. Without him, there would have been no Force. You will be remembered in the incredible films you made that touched the lives of millions. So this is important here, this text. Without him, there would have been no Force as it relates to the story that we're going to read. And this is just one excerpt from the article. I won't read the whole article, but I thought this was kind of fascinating. Then there's Kurtz's role in creating one of the key aspects of Star Wars lore, the Force. Lucas was certainly interested in religion already, but was struggling to express his spirituality in early drafts of Star Wars. The first draft saw one character say, "I feel the Force of others," also, with no explanation. In the second draft, Lucas wrote about the Bogan Force, the dark side, and the Ashla Force, the light, with perhaps too much explanation. So Kurtz, a student of comparative religion, took his textbooks from the shelf and had many late-night chats with Lucas about how they could introduce the Force succinctly. We did have long discussions about various religious philosophies and how people related to them, and how we could simplify it, Kurtz told me in 2014 in an interview for How Star Wars Conquered the Universe, a book that Chris Taylor authored. May the Force be with you came out of medieval Christianity, where "May God go with you" was a symbol that you would be safe. We wanted something as simple as that, an everyday expression that linked to the power of the Force that wasn't overbearing. Hey presto, in Lucas's third draft, the Force was described in an economical 3 sentences by Ben Kenobi.
The Force?
The Force is what gives the Jedi his power. It's an energy field created by all living things. It surrounds us, it penetrates us, it binds the galaxy together.
Kurtz never wanted to take credit. It wasn't clear who in those late night sessions had come up with the words, and he wasn't the taking credit type. But if he wasn't necessarily the father of the Force, he was certainly a father. So there you go, pretty interesting, you know, and again, an unsung hero in many ways. So there you see the two, who let's give them both credit for coming up with the Force that we know. And that's Gary Kurtz. And look, you know, you can't just go over a man's life who lived so long, you know, this shortly. It would be obnoxious to think so, but it is a small tribute in a way. And you know, look, if I could do a little bit of my part here to kind of bring a little bit of light to what he meant to this franchise that so many of us revere, and being there from the beginning and kind of setting it on the proper course for that original trilogy, then I'm happy to do my part and honor the man who really helped kind of get this thing off the ground and gave it a chance. Who knows if anybody else that might have been in his shoes could have made the same decisions or accomplished the same things that George needed to get done at the time when he was trying to see his vision all the way through. So thank you, Gary Kurtz, for everything you've done for Star Wars. You certainly are appreciated, sir. You should be honored and remembered for all time. You're truly one of the original founding fathers of this franchise, along with many others from A New Hope. John Williams, of course, George Lucas, Ralph McQuarrie, and may you rest peacefully, sir, and may the Force be with you. And thanks everybody for watching. I hope you enjoyed and found this video to be interesting, and if you liked it, be sure to give it a little thumbs up, and feel free to subscribe if this is your first time here, and comment down below. Thank you very much for watching, everybody, and have a good evening. Be happy, be safe, be healthy. Take care.